one of the things I saw in your notes that I thought was interesting, you don't think that the market has priced in, has realized the full force of fiscal stimulus coming from federal governments and central banks around the world. Is that the case?
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, I think they're pricing it in more now than we were a month ago, that's for sure. But I think when I talk to people that I know, so many people, even despite the rally, are still very bearish. I mean, this is probably, outside of 2008, 2009, the initial rally we had there, one of the most hated rallies that we've seen. And while it's not nearly as attractive as it was at the end of March, I think there's still tremendous opportunities, especially in the smaller, more cyclical type of value names, which is contrarian to what a lot of people believe. And I think the reason that people are still failing to grasp the rally is, they're not taking into account the true impact that I think the policy response will have. To us, when it became clear in late March that the government, both through fiscal and monetary policy, here in the U.S., I'll speak to that specifically, was essentially going to do everything that they can to shepherd both the supply and the demand side of the economy across this massive economic black hole that we're currently seeing. To us, that was a game changer, and I still think people are underestimating how powerful that can be. Now, clearly, there'll be long-term consequences to that we should be talking about, but I think there's still an underestimation of what the government, especially monetary authorities, are prepared to do. Absolutely.
Well, it makes me think of something we say back home in the States. I'm not sure if Europeans have this turn of phrase, but Jeff, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. What do you think consumers will act like here as these lockdowns start to ease? I mean, even if I'm allowed to go to a restaurant, get in a plane, get a pedicure, am I going to do all of those things?
So, okay, so there's two parts to that, right? There's one, whether or not you have the financial wherewithal and the income to spend. And then there's the behavioral element, whether or not you would want to engage in the activities that you mentioned. I think on the spending side, we've seen, and we will continue to see the government to support incomes and spending power to the best of their ability. And if we see a reasonably robust economic recovery, the spending power will return over time. Now, whether or not people want to go have a restaurant meal, I tend to be more optimistic on whether or not behavior is going to go back to, it won't go back to 100% normal. That much is clear. But I think that there are a lot of people right now, and I think they're extrapolating and kind of getting bogged down in a recency bias, that they're believing that there's this world post-COVID that's going to look nothing like the world before COVID. And I just don't know if that's true. And to take a restaurant meal, for instance, at first it'll be very hesitant, but there's a thing called social proof. When you see other people around you starting to act and behave in certain ways, then it makes it more likely that you feel that okay, it's okay to behave that way. So maybe you go to a restaurant or walk by a restaurant or a bar that's slowly reopening and you see a few people in there and you don't want to go. And then maybe a week later you see a few more and you're like, well, let's give it a shot. And then you go in and you have a meal, everybody's kind of spread further out and you don't get sick. And then slowly people kind of are like, all right, we're kind of coming back out of this. Now, obviously, if the virus is spreading rapidly during all this, that probably won't be the case. But if the virus gets under control and people start to realize that they can go back to behavior, the more that they do it, the more normal it'll start to feel, I think. And so I think if we just look out 2 years from now, I would be shocked if nobody's going to restaurants, if nobody's doing. I think that it'll be a slow process, but I think people want and need social interaction. And so I think we go back to a world that's probably more normal than a lot of people think. And so I think businesses and companies and stocks that are being priced as if the probability of that happening is extremely low, I think there are opportunities in those names, assuming the companies have the financial wherewithal to bridge this economic desert, as we've called it, this economic black hole, and get to the other side.